Hello, beautiful souls. I'm just popping on to make sure everything is working the way it's supposed to, and so I can start on time. Thank you so much for joining today. Ajaya has created a very, very beautiful community of souls who are really here to help raise the frequency on the planet, which I think we all know is very much needed. And there is something very beautiful about getting together and making it a community where we really do this together. So I want to thank you, Ajaya, and it's very lovely to be here with some beautiful, beautiful speakers and your own introductions and meditations that you've offered. They're very beautiful. I'm very grateful to be here. So, my friends, my name is Pernilla Lila Rose, and I call myself a self-love mentor and a spiritual guide. And I love helping mostly women, but certainly men too. For some reason, it's been focusing on women, but it's really the divine feminine in each of us, really helping us come home to our soul, to our heart, to the wisdom that lives in our body, and learning to flow with that, learning the language, and coming back and live in full authenticity and courage with who we are. And the more we live like that, the more we really bring a higher frequency to the planet. So welcome. My talk today is called The Sacred Connection Between Embodiment, Self-Love, and Your Heart's Deepest Longing, or Your Heart's Longing. They're all intimately connected, and I think it's really beautiful to understand how important it is that we bring all aspects into it. So I'm going to go through each three of them. But I want to just start with reading you a poem that I wrote a while ago. And it's always fun to start with some poetry, and that kind of makes it more alive and it feels more real. So this poem is called I Look in the Mirror. I look in the mirror. I like what I see. A beautiful woman. Oh my goddess, it's me. A few new wrinkles, a bit of sagging skin. I know that none of these foibles can ever cover my beauty within. A thin gray hair here, a thick chin hair there. Come on, sisters, there's no reason for despair. I have what it takes to enjoy all that I am. In fact, I passed with flying colors on that final self-love exam. Who I am is my business. I think that sounds fair. What others think about me, I really don't care. Ah, that woman in the mirror, she always looks back at me with deep love and compassion, a sign of true intimacy. Now grab that mirror and pierce through that old veil, right past your false identity. Step out of your jail. Look back inside, past that great divide. Kiss your sweet lips and be at peace without those old scripts. They were never who you are. It's time to enjoy your inner, bright, radiant star. So I think that's a nice entry into this. And let's start with embodiment. I would say that until we really are able to listen to the language of our body, we are out of touch with the signs, the wisdom, the guidance, even the fulfillment of who we already are. And most people, they're moving away. They're trying to find their answers outside and ask other people. They follow the other rules, even though they may not resonate inside. So embodiment is really a learning the language of the body. And it happens through the felt sense of the body. And the felt sense is like the signs, the cues of the physical and emotional and mental body that speaks through us. And it tells us if we should go ahead or if we shouldn't. If it resonates, excuse me, if it resonates or if it doesn't. And it's something we feel inside. It's a real felt sense experience. So until we have learned the language of the body, we don't have a reference point inside to go by. Now, the reference point is there. It's always there because the body is always speaking to us. But it's us who need to learn to listen and learn the language of the body. Then we can start aligning with who we are, and we can start trusting ourselves instead of what other people may say. And of course, when we have a lot of built up of trauma, of fear, of bad experiences, we have lost touch with it because it was not honored when we grew up or when we were in these challenging situations. It wasn't honored, it wasn't listened to. So we started doubting our own wisdom and our own knowing, and we cut it off. And like I say, we turn outside and look for it somewhere else. And that's where our problems begin. Because we are out of touch with the reality and the truth of our full, beautiful expression. So I want to give you an example. It's really the basics. If we talk about body language, it's the ABC of body language is basically yes and no. When you learn what a yes feels like and what a no feels like, then you have an amazing guiding system. It's like your inner GPS. It's like go left or go right. There is a feeling, and it is usually a yes feels like a sense of expansion, a sense of energy, openness, relaxation, joy, a click inside. There is something that happens inside of us when there is a yes. And then the opposite is when there is a no, there tends to be like a contraction or resistance or tightening up. And these are all signs that happen in the body all the time. So of course the invitation is for all of us to get to know these signs, to get to know the felt sense and what it means. So I want to just give you, invite you right now to think about when there's something that you really like, something you say yes to, whether, I don't know if it's an ice cream or if it's a, nice bath or a good meal or hanging out with good friends, whatever it is for you, just take a moment and just feel how does your body tell you that you want that? So you might notice different body signs, and it may be different for all of us, and there's a lot of similarities in it too. So just feel this like the yes, and like, oh, that's what a yes feels like. So take a breath into that, and just get to know your body when it says yes. And then we can leave that on the side right now, and then we can go to when there's something you really don't want, don't like. That's when your body says no. So think of something that it's not fun, something in your life, I don't know, paying bills or whatever, and just feel like, ooh, right? There's like a pulling back, there's a contraction, maybe a tightening in the jaws. Again, for you to notice what it feels like for you. This is your exploration to find out the basics, the ABCs of your body. So you can learn to leave when your body goes like this, or to stay if your body goes like this. It's so basic and it's so important. It's really the foundation of how we move into life aligned with our own truth. And that truth is, of course, our divine connection. There is something also in between yes and no. Of course, there are different flavors of the yes and no. And the more we learn to listen, we go like, oh, it's a yes. Or like, let me just feel into it deeper. So you learn to just drop in and, get connected with that. But there is a time where we do not know. And that's a very real thing. There are times where we simply do not know yet. That's why I call it there's a yes and there's a no. And then there's the space in between where we don't know yet. And that's a very important part of it too, because many times, most people are very afraid to not know, and we try to know, and we may make decisions before we really feel it inside. So my invitation is to also learn what an I don't know. I put yet behind it because we will know. It's just a phase in between knowing and not knowing. So feeling that I don't know, what does it feel like to not know? See if you can get a sense of that. There might be a fear, there might be a wanting to pull back from it, or there might be a trying to know. So just give yourself permission right now to get to know all these, the yes, the no, and the I don't know, and just feel into and see what that is like. Now, embodiment, that's not something you learn in a short introduction, of course, on a Facebook Live here. It's something we really can dive into and get to know that language and how we have suppressed it and ignored it most of our lives. We've all done it. And that's when we got into situations that were not very good for us. I was in a very, very challenging situation in my early days where my body gave me a clear no when this person asked if you could stay at my home because you didn't have a place to stay that night. And it's a longer story. I just make it as brief as I can. And when he asked me that, I didn't know the guy, basically. I felt a clear no. But I ignored it because I wasn't trusting myself yet. I was afraid that it was not okay to say no. He was very, very convincing. So his energy was very strong, in front of little me. So I actually gave in, and I ended up in 5 months of the absolute most awful hell, to be honest with you. And then it took me many years to find out what really happened there. And as I was working through it, I found that I actually felt no, but I suppressed it and let him decide what was true for me. Was a very bad decision, but I learned a lot, and I ended up becoming a self-love mentor because I learned how important it is to listen to ourselves. So the next part I want to go over is the self-love. So once you have learned to listen to yourself, get the signs, understand what it means, and follow them, then we can start turning our attention towards that more consciously and more often, because otherwise we just go in the unconscious, known or familiar way. So we just start going in and feeling like, what is it? And we do it with a loving attitude. It's not just like, what do you want? It's like, okay, what is true for me right now? What feels right? And here we talk about self-love, right? Now you start turning back to yourself and you go like, oh, I feel a yes. And then you honor that. But it's not just yes and no. There is also all the feelings, the fears, the grief, the doubts, all the things that we keep suppressing along with the knowledge and the wisdom that we already are. So now you actually are willing to turn towards yourself with a space of willingness and allowing to let this part of you, there's many parts in all of us, and they all live in these little contracted spaces, because they're afraid to come out because they weren't allowed to. And I think that's a general thing for most of us. When we grew up, most parents, they didn't quite know how to be with us in a way that we're learning today. But then we're learning to be with ourselves, so it's not too late. So we allow this contraction, this fear, this doubt, we allow that experience to be here. And we do that in a way of, we allow it. Normally we resist it, right? Normally we say, go away. Now we're going to say, hello. We're literally just going to make space and we say hello to it. And then this part that we have been resisting and rejecting starts feeling more safe. And it's like, oh, I can be here now. And when you really feel it from a place of love, then you go, yes, yes. And then it can start letting us know what it needs or what it went through or what it wanted from us that wasn't there. Maybe it wasn't anybody to help us, and they needed help, and now they need something from us. It's again a very individual thing for each of us when these frozen parts start unfolding. But now we allow and we listen, and then we meet that, whatever it shares, we meet that with love. Now it can relax even deeper and can start softening. And then that contraction that we have been holding here, when that dissolves, then this part that we have been basically hijacking or keeping imprisoned, that is also who we are. This is not separate from us. It felt separate because we contracted around it and wanted to get rid of it. So instead of resisting it, now we start allowing it, and then it comes to life, and then we start experiencing a part of ourselves that we had never really listened to. And then it simply starts coming back into our body, into our being, into our experience, and it softens, and we experience ourselves as more of who we already are, but we just had not embraced that or integrated that part yet. So what I talk about here, I call it the ALL formula, ALL, allow, listen, and love. So we allow what we've been resisting, and then we start listening to what we have been deaf to, and then we start loving it. We basically love it back into who we are instead of keeping it out there. So you see the connection between embodiment and self-love. If we don't know how to listen to the body, we can't love it. Because we're out there living our life far away from this, we're not loving it. It's very unloving to live like that. But when we learn the language, then there's like, we almost come rushing in. It's like, oh, honey, I'm so sorry. What did I do to you? I want to listen to you, and I want to honor what you want, what's true for you. So you get in touch with your core values and your core longings, and you simply who you are, and you start honoring and enjoying that in a whole new way. So now I want to stitch the last part back to this, and that is the heart's longing. The heart's longing, obviously, is felt in the body, right? It's right here. It feels like something that we long for or yearn for. It feels good. And most of us are also resisting that or rejecting it or are ignoring it, because those needs and longings were not honored when we were young, or even as we grew older. We may have been in many situations where our needs were not honored. So we stopped honoring our own needs, our own longings, our own yearnings. But the longing is still here. It's a really, really sweet sensation when you also, instead of going out there and trying to find something to fill this longing up with, could be a partner or working out or alcohol or food. It's like we try and fill us up so we don't feel this sweet, sweet longing. It's a sweet longing. But when you turn towards it, you experience something that is so different than what you thought you really wanted. We think that something out here will satisfy this longing. And it may do so for a short while. Absolutely. I mean, if you're hungry, you eat. It's like, but this hunger cannot be fulfilled by anything outside of ourselves. So here's my invitation. And this is a big part of my teachings and what I share. It is that we need to turn towards the longing, the felt sense of the longing. Not go up here and say, oh, I want this or I want that. We stay in the body and we feel the felt sense of the longing itself. Most people don't do that. But here's my invitation right now. Just see if there's anything you deeply long for right now. Could be, can be anything. Could be feeling loved, feeling peace. At the depth of the longing, there's always these experiences which is love and peace, connected, intimacy. It's not the things that we think we want out there. They're basically a way of not feeling this. So going in and feeling the felt sense of the longing, like it's a real experience. You don't need to put anything behind it and say, I long for this or I long for that. The depth of the feeling, you will start feeling a sense of warmth or peace or sweetness. It's delicious, actually. It's a lovely experience. So when we go in and just let ourselves feel the longing in the body as a felt sense. In my experience, and that's all I can speak from, is that when we sit here in the longing itself, I know I'm repeating myself, but it's so important when you get that. The feeling itself, that is the portal of the divine. The way I talk about it is like, the divine being everywhere, the field all around us, the field that Rumi talks about, right? Beyond the field of the right doing and wrong doing, there is a field. And I'll meet you there, right? That's where the divine meets us all the time. And the way I experience it is like when I feel the longing here, it's as if the field or the divine is knocking on my door of my heart. And the feeling that we feel is the divine. It's not that we need to get something. It is the feeling of the divine itself. And that to me is the most beautiful thing, when we can start connecting with that and learning to really stay there and not keep going away. It's like, oh, does that mean I need to do this? Just stay there. Stay there as long as you can and as long as you want to, and get familiar with this. And the more you do, you kind of don't want to leave it, because it feels like, oh, this is my real GPS. This is like, it will move me and it will show up and it will fulfill. It's a process for all of us, for me too, for sure. But having that access, instead of going out and getting lost in the world, we can stop and pause and say, is that really what I want? Do I really want to be out there, struggling and striving and working hard and trying to make it happen? Normally we say no. It's like, well, what do I want? It's like, oh, I want this. This is what I want. This is what I want. And then you stay there. And when we do that, we open up for the divine to come through more, because the feeling is already the divine, your own divinity. And that is really the only thing we want, truly. So let's just stitch the three together now. There's embodiment, learning the language of your body through the felt sense. And then self-love is helping us turn back and honor the language of our body, and start listening to it and acting on it and letting it guide us. And then a big addition to that is the longing, which is really the motivating force that will move us in the right direction, and it will bring things to us to match that, right, in this dimension. So all three, it's a sacred union that I very much invite you to explore more of, if you want. So if you would like to learn more about my work, I will put some of the links in the comments. You can go to my website, which is Divine Feminine Flow. I have a YouTube channel. I post almost daily about everything that I talk about here, and that probably everybody's talking about, because we're about embodying the divine and start living as that and lifting the frequencies. So the new paradigm that we're feeling as the longing can start coming in, and we do that together. So my YouTube channel is basically just youtube.com/Pernille Lillerose. You'll find it also in the comments. And if you're interested in exploring more with me, next week I'm offering a free webinar called Awakening the Fearless Light Worker Within. And we're gonna let this come out and really bring that to the earth here. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm very grateful that we are here together, and with Ajaya and her beautiful offering, to have as many people come together and start living from the core, from our heart, and raising the frequencies, not by doing anything. We can do things, but just by being it. That's the invitation. Blessings. Thank you from my heart.